I'm honestly really shocked about this. I did not think that Amber Heard was going to come out and do interviews, especially this quickly, but she did. She has spoken out and I'm gonna be reacting to that. I will say this, I have already seen it, but I watched it one time through and I really wanted to comment on some of the things that I heard, but I need to remember everything that I heard. So we're gonna go through and react to it. Before I get into this, if you guys see this move, this little blue thing right here, it's not a ghost. My cat is inside of a sweater. It is her comfort thing. She loves climbing inside of sweaters and sleeping. I do not personally think that Amber should have come out this quickly. I think she should have probably taken a little bit of time, maybe process some things, but obviously it's her decision if she wants to come out and say something. And I do respect everybody's rights to say whatever they want to say, even if we're like, girl. There are definitely some things in this that there's one thing in particular that I had to pause it because I was laughing my ass off, which is an awful thing to say when it comes down to something that's as serious as what this trial was focused around, which was domestic violence. So when you're listening to an interview that somebody did talking about that, you don't expect yourself to laugh, but you guys will see what I'm talking about once we get there. But there's definitely some things I want to make note of that she said that I think are really important to mention. So we're going to be doing that, and then tomorrow there's another one that I will probably react to whenever I can get some time. But let's go ahead and get into this while I have the time to do it, and I definitely got some things to say. If you guys haven't seen this yet, just prepare yourself.
It's been about more than a week since the verdict. As you sit here with me now, has it sunk in?
How could it? Surreal and difficult, in part, yes. This has been a long time coming.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
I will say that is a very big thing to say because a lot of us are really convinced that she was being dishonest with a lot of the things that she said in her testimony. We know that with some of the audio that we have heard of Amber Heard in the past talking to Johnny, that she has said her reputation is everything. So with that, it does kind of make sense that she's doing this interview and saying things like that because she must truly believe that there's something that she could do or say that will get anybody to believe her, or maybe she thinks she, goes and hides in a cave and like doesn't come out and see the world at all, that people just think that she's guilty. So maybe to show that she's being genuine by not being afraid to come out and speak. Maybe that's her angle with this. I don't know.
I think vast majority of this trial was played out on social media. I think that this trial is an example of that gone haywire, gone amok, and the jury is not immune to that.
You think the jury saw it?
How could they not? I think even the most well-intentioned juror, it would have been impossible to avoid this.
Interesting. So Elaine, her lawyer, was on another interview last week, I believe it was, where she was saying that she believes that the jury essentially cheated and that they saw all of this stuff in the media and social media, and that it would be really hard for them to avoid it, which I do agree it'd probably be really hard to avoid. Let me know what you guys think down below. I think in today's world, it is a very digital world, it probably would be a really hard thing to avoid, but I also think as a lawyer, it's really unprofessional to say those things. You're supposed to respect the judge and the jury regardless of whether you lost or not. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I just feel like there needs to be a level of respect there. Amber is basically repeating what Elaine said, and so it's a mutual thing amongst her and her team, obviously, where they believe that the jury cheated and looked at what was on social media. And they bring this up a lot, and this is something that I find very interesting, how much they bring up that the jury probably saw this on social media. My opinion on that is that, well, number one, you shouldn't assume that. But number two, if they saw what was going out on social media, it doesn't change the fact that what people are reacting to on the internet is the things that she said, or the audio recording that was shared, the pictures that she took. It was things that happened in the trial. It wasn't anybody taking things out of context or assuming this or assuming that, or, putting words in people's mouths. It was us reacting to the things that actually occurred in the trial. So when they're bringing up, the jury saw social media, it doesn't change the fact that even if they did see it, The things that were happening on the internet is stuff that was in the trial. It's reactions or commenting on things that actually happened. So even if they did see social media, all they were seeing was people's opinions about what was happening in the trial, which yes, it can sway your view, but I don't know how you could have been in that courtroom, whether you were seeing social media or not, and not have seen discrepancies or found things to be confusing. And I mentioned this in my previous video that I did. They want to bring up that they saw social media, but also in the same breath, her lawyer Elaine wanted to say that they weren't allowed to tell the jury about the UK trial with Johnny Depp suing the Sun. How can you say that they cheated and they looked at social media, but also in the same breath say that they weren't aware of some of the things that was going on social media? People were talking about the UK trial and the Sun. So if the jury was seeing this social media and everybody running amok, then they would have seen the evidence that they weren't allowed to tell them, which if they were so convinced was damning to Johnny Depp, then they should think that the jury would have then sided with them. It doesn't make any sense is what I'm trying to say.
Every single day I passed for 3, 4, sometimes 6 blocks, city blocks lined with people holding signs saying burn the witch, death to Amber.
I will say, I think that regardless of if you believe Amber or don't believe Amber, it is really awful to say things like that. You know, they brought up on numerous occasions, people said that they were going to microwave her baby. I think we can all agree how terrible that is. I do not support that at all. And do not think that because I've done videos on this trial that I think any of that is okay. It's not. I don't care what Amber did. Like, it's not okay to say things like that. I've seen people talk about how on social media, I think it was on Tumblr if I'm not mistaken, that people are saying really awful things like that about Johnny Depp. Like, there's just some really bad people out there that are going to say the worst of the worst. Even though I do believe that Amber was the abuser in this relationship with what we saw in this trial, it doesn't mean I think that she deserves to be told some of the things that she was told during this trial.
After 3.5 weeks, I took the stand and saw just a courtroom packed full of Captain Jack Sparrow fans who were vocal, energized.
Can you put into words how that felt?
This was the most humiliating and horrible thing I've ever been through. I have never felt more removed from my own humanity.
I could see why she would be humiliated by this entire thing, but I mean, that's what happens when you make false accusations about somebody or if you're caught in numerous lies.
Let's go back to the day of the verdict. Were you feeling confident?
That's a great question. I wish I could say yes to that. I want to say yes to you, but it wouldn't be true. Even if you think that I'm lying, you still couldn't tell me, look me in the eye and tell me that you think on social media there's been a fair representation.
I don't understand why they keep bringing up social media. In the trial, it was fair. Everybody got to share everything that they had. Well, I mean, they said that there was some evidence that wasn't allowed in. There was on both sides. I feel like it was very fair.
There was another trial, handled it dealt with the same substantive issues that had even more evidence in. In fact, my evidence was largely kept out. Really important pieces of evidence kept out. Done differently, handled differently by a judge instead of a jury.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not in the legal side of things, but I feel like it would be harder to win a full jury over because they all have to agree, whereas with the judges, just like one person. The evidence that was left out, there was evidence left out on both sides, but I have a really hard time believing that there was damning evidence that we don't know about that was left out of this trial. I think their relationship was toxic as hell. I don't know what Johnny did or did not do, but I do know that there's proof that Amber committed domestic violence against Johnny, and there's nothing against him. There's nothing proving that he did that.
Do you think that maybe he just had better lawyers?
I will
Yes.
say his lawyers did certainly a better job of distracting the jury from the real issues.
For some people,
I would not blame the average person for looking at this and how it's been covered and not think that it is Hollywood brats at their worst. But what people don't understand is it's actually so much bigger than that. This is not only about our First Amendment right to speak.
But here's the thing about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects free speech. It doesn't protect lies that amount to defamation. And that was the issue in the case.
Yes, exactly.
I love that
You
she
can't
said that.
go into, the free speech does not protect you if you go into a crowded theater and you scream fire. We get the concept of free speech from the Greeks. My understanding of what that means is not just the freedom to speak. It's a freedom to speak truth to power.
But truth is the word.
Yes.
And that was the issue.
And that's all I spoke. And I spoke it to power, and I paid the price.
Honey. I have a really hard time with Amber because she lacks accountability. That's like my biggest issue with her, because she did not just speak the truth. She was caught lying on numerous occasions. I've done a lot of videos on it. Playlist link down below. I think most of my videos on this trial had something in the title to do with another lie was caught. There were numerous lies caught and discrepancies. I have a really hard time with Amber Heard. She's really frustrating. That's to put it lightly, but she is frustrating.
In the closing arguments, the Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
Why did she say that? I think she was trying to imply that Johnny Depp is also an actor, but he didn't convince the world he had scissors for fingers. He was in a movie and we all knew that he was playing a character. Meanwhile, you're up there on the stand playing a character in something that's happening in real life. You sound like you're reading from a script or something that you practiced in front of your bathroom mirror during a trial about something as serious as domestic violence, where you have been caught lying about it on numerous occasions. This is not a movie about Edward Scissorhands, which, by the way, best Johnny Depp movie of all time.
I had listened to weeks of testimony insinuating that, or saying quite directly that, I'm a terrible actress. So I'm a bit confused how I could be both.
I think saying that you're giving the performance of your life doesn't mean that you're the best actress or that you're a good actress. I'm explaining this like she's gonna watch it. Let me explain something to you, Amber Heard. Where's my chalkboard? I think a terrible actress can give the performance of their life. It doesn't mean it's a good one. Like, there's a reason why nobody believed her.
Team argued that you were the abuser, that you instigated physical violence. Did you?
I never had to instigate it. I responded to it.
I don't like how she has admitted to hitting him, but continuously gives an excuse, basically implying that he deserved it or that he caused it to happen to himself. Like, these audio clips of her are horrible. They're not somebody that is saying things in a way that is like him instigating it and her, retaliating. These are her admitting to starting physical fights.
When you're living in violence and it becomes normal, as I testified to, you have to adapt.
You say you were responding, but there is evidence. There are tapes in which you acknowledge hitting. There are tapes in which you say, I started the fight.
I know much has been made of these audio tapes. They were first leaked online after being edited.
Wow, she is really trying to spin this. She is so frustrating. Oh my God, she is so frustrating. Now she's saying that the audio clips were edited, like trying to imply that they were edited in a way that made her look bad. No, it came out of your mouth. Yes, I did start a physical fight. There is no way that you can edit that out of context to make yourself look better. That's just bad in general. You admitted to starting a physical fight, at least in that one audio recording. Admit where you went wrong. Like, you're caught. Like, admit it.
He says, you start physical fights, and you say, I did start a physical fight. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. I mean, this is in black and white. I understand context.
I love that because Amber tries to gaslight. Amber tries to tell you that what you heard isn't what you heard, or if you did hear it, it was actually something different. People like that are incredibly dangerous because they'll make you feel like you're literally losing your mind. Like if you've ever been around somebody that gaslights, that shit is tough to deal with. It is so toxic and so abusive. And I think that she doesn't really make herself look any better when it comes down to what we saw in this trial by doing things like this. For her to downplay like what you're hearing with your own ears in front of the world. Imagine what she would do behind closed doors with one person. Like she's somebody that could drive you literally insane.
But you're testifying and you're just telling me today, I never started a physical fight, and here you are on tape saying you did.
As I testified on the stand about this, is that when your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the resources that, say, you or I do with the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white.
She says again that her life was at risk. Like she has implied that Johnny was gonna kill her. She's made huge accusations against Johnny Depp, and she just did it again there too. And when you hear her up there giving her testimony, like how she was scared for her life, but then you hear her being incredibly evil, to be honest with you, in these audio recordings, and it never sounds like somebody who is scared for their life like she tries to act like she is. Like it's two completely different people, and nobody can argue against that. Saying all of this stuff right here is just fluff and distraction. It's, I hear what you're saying, but I'm gonna try and distract you away from it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when a pageant queen gets asked a question that they don't know the answer to, so they're trying to give an answer that is separate from the question that you asked, but if they do it well enough, you'll forget what question you asked and just be captivated by what they're saying and not even pay attention. That's what I feel like she does, and she did it right there.
You're taunting him and saying, oh, tell the world, Johnny Depp, I, a man, am a victim of domestic violence.
20-second clips or the transcripts of them are not representative of even the 2 hours or the 3 hours that those clips are excerpt from.
Could your side have just put the whole...
Wait, but didn't they show clips too? Like, didn't her team also show clips? So couldn't you say the same thing about the clips that you showed? The text messages that you showed, all the things that your team showed out of context. Couldn't we say the exact same thing about that? Or does it not apply to your situation? Just Johnny's, just anything that proves that you're a victim here and he's not.
Could your side have just put the whole 3 hours in then?
Could you just put the whole 3 hours in then? There are very long audio clips online where you can sit there and you can listen to the whole thing. And if anything, it makes her look even worse.
I was talking in those recordings as a person in extreme amount of emotional, psychological, and physical distress.
He
And
says
it
he
doesn't-
never hit you.
He can't-
Never. Is
Yeah.
that a lie?
Yes, it is.
What about the witnesses who said they have seen you instigate physical violence?
I've seen firsthand how people will file rank and support the person they depend on.
Did they all come in and lie in court?
I am not here to call any of his witnesses any names. I'm here to just kind of talk about it from what it felt like for me as a person who sat.
I don't like how she tries to imply that every person that defended Johnny Depp and got on the stand all lied under oath for him. Every single person. And every single jury member got online on social media and cheated. The judge wouldn't let in evidence that proved your innocence, that proved Johnny Depp was the abuser. Everything is everybody else's fault.
When I asked his lawyers, why do you think you won? And the answer I got was, because she never took responsibility for anything she did.
Even if she did take responsibility, she was still gonna lose. Let's be real.
I did do and say horrible, regrettable things throughout my relationship. I behaved in horrible, almost unrecognizable to myself ways. I have so much regret. I freely and openly and voluntarily talked about what I did. I talked about the horrible language. I talked about being pushed to the extent where I didn't even know the difference between, right and wrong. I will always continue to feel like I was a part of this, like I was the other half of this relationship, because I was. And it was ugly and could be very beautiful. It was very, very toxic. We were awful to each other. You know, I made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes. But I've always told the truth.
Okay, that's confusing. Let's talk about that end really quick before my son wakes up. She finally takes some accountability at the end there. Everything with her she's given excuses for, but then at the end admits to saying and doing terrible things. It's really confusing to listen to that entire interview and how she has excuses for everything, but then also say that at the end. The one thing that I will agree with her on is that they did have a very toxic relationship. That's probably about the only accountability that we're ever gonna get out of Amber Heard. I don't think it's gonna go any further than that. There is gonna be another part to this that is going to be going up the day that this video is. So that other clip I will react to, get it up as soon as possible. I will try to tomorrow, but I got a newborn and I don't know if he'll let me. So if he lets me, we will do it. He controls the household. It's all on his time. So if I'm able to get that up for you guys tomorrow, it will be there. So make sure you subscribe if you don't, turn the bell on so that you don't miss that video. Check out my Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial playlist down below. Let me know what you guys thought about this interview. And I will be seeing you guys very soon for another video. Bye guys.